Hi, I'm Greg from Zoho Expert, and today I have a really exciting video to show you guys. Today's video is about automatically obtaining files or gathering files from your clients using Zoho CRM, Zoho Forms, and Zoho Flow to connect everything together. So the process is technically complicated, but if you follow my video, you should find it really easy. I'm going to include the code, the custom Deluge script that you need in the video description, and I'm going to show you step by step how to do what we want to do here. So the first thing to note is we can gather files from an individual person, or from a potential or a deal, or from a custom module. Now, the way I work with my business is I use custom modules for the files that I'm expecting to get from people. So, for example, I will have a custom module called files or outstanding files or documents, whatever the case may be. You can call it whatever you like. And then in there, I will have a request for a document, and I'll have a workflow that sends to my client an email that says click here to upload the outstanding document. But that's because we obtain tons and tons of documents from our clients, so we need to have it as a separate module. For you, you'll probably be okay with just getting the file upload from your client and attaching it to their CRM record as the contact, or attaching it to the deal. So for example, if you're an accountant and you need to request their bank statements for the last 12 months, or you need to request their, I don't know, account receipts or books, then you can follow this process and you can have the client's upload automatically attached to the deal. And then in another video coming up shortly, I'll show you how to automate the process of sending the client out the link to the form and asking them to upload it, and chasing them repetitively until they actually upload the document. So lots to go over. It's not going to be a long video. Don't get intimidated. Honestly, this is such a good thing. You really need to know this for your business. We save so much time at our business now that this process is automated. We used to spend half our days chasing people to send us documents, and it's now no longer the case. Anyway, let's get into it. So the first thing you need to do is go to Zoho Forms, and we're going to create a new form. Now, I've tested all this out before I've made this video so that I could, make it as quick as possible for you guys, and without having you watch me make mistakes or work out problems. So I'm just going to show you exactly how to do it. So let's make a form called get document from client, and create. Okay, so the first thing we want is we want a single line field, and this is going to be called module name. Now, this is going to be the module that you want the document uploaded to in CRM. Okay, and we'll make this mandatory, and we will hide this field. For now, actually, we will unhide this field. We want to show you what's happening. Okay, now we want the record ID. This is the record ID for the record in the CRM that you want the files uploaded to. All right. Technically, that should also be mandatory. Let's just do that quick. Now, in the real world, when we're running this form, these will both be hidden. Okay, so the next thing we want is we want a single line field, and here we're going to call this document type. And this is your instruction to your client now. They're going to see this. So please upload this document as soon as possible. Please contact us if you have any questions. Okay, now this is going to be mandatory, and it's going to be disabled, so they can't change the value of this. All right, and now we are going to have a file upload. Now this is up to you how you want to set this file upload. So here you can specify the types of files that you'll accept. So for example, we might accept PDF, JPEG, dot PDF, JPG, JPEG, maybe it doesn't want the dot, JPG, and PNG. PDF, JPEG, PNG. I am confused as to why this is not allowing this. PDF, that is right. JPEG, JPG, PNG. I mean, these are all correct file types. Anyway, so we want a minimum of 1 file, and here I'm going to set a maximum of 5 files, but maybe you just want 1 file from your client, so you'll select 1 and 1, but I'm going to select between 1 and 5 files. I'm going to leave this as the maximum, which is 20. I'm going to say this is mandatory as well, and I'm going to try and save this. Yeah, it's saved, so that error was just confusing. Anyway, oh no, it didn't save anything here. So PDF, JPG, JPEG, PNG. So those are the files. I think it's because I had spaces before. Those are the files we are willing to accept. So here is another instruction to your client. So please upload clear photos or scans of the above files for us. Okay, so the next thing, now we've got our form. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to go to settings, and we want to go to field aliases. This is going to help us automatically create the link to send to our clients. So in the field aliases, I'm going to say module, so we're just going to call it M. And then we want to say record ID, so we'll call this ID. And finally, document type, so we call this type, and save. Okay, what this means is now when we go to share this document using this link, we can say question mark M equals, and I'm going to put this in potentials, and so ampersand ID equals, and then I'm just going to choose a deal ID from my system, and then finally and type equals bank statement. Now you can put a plus here when you're creating a link if you want to. Okay, so we're going to copy this and press enter. Now you see when this loads up, now these 2 fields will be hidden from the client, so all they'll see is document type and then this. So let's update that on this side. So we'll hide this because you don't need to see this anymore, because you've seen now how it feeds in automatically from our URL. So when we're creating our workflow in the CRM, we will preload this data into this URL. So we're going to hide module name, and we're going to hide module ID. Okay, and now if we come back here, reload the link, all we can see is bank statement and the area to upload the files. Now, the next step is to go to Zoho Flow. If you haven't used Zoho Flow before, then I'm going to create this from scratch and show you how to do that. So this will be let's say docs Zoho Form uploads to CRM. Okay, create. And we're going to say app. Okay, and now we want to choose Forms, Zoho Forms, next. Now, I'm going to say when an entry is submitted. Now, I was hoping it would give me the option to create a new link. I'm just zooming in and out because my screen reader software is blocking this. Okay, yeah, so we're going to create a new link to Zoho Forms. So that's how you do it. In your case, you'll probably have not done this before, so you'll need to create the link. Super simple, give it a name. Now call it Zoho Forms. You'll see why later, because it means something in the code. And we go trigger for all actions, authorize. Now you can't see this, but I've got a pop-up on my screen asking me to accept that I give Zoho Flow permission to access my Zoho Forms. Now we're back into our new flow, and we're going to say from our form, get document from client, I think is what we called it. Yes, it is. So from this form, we want this flow to fire every time an entry is submitted in this form. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to go to we want to go to custom functions. Now I've already made a custom function, but I'm going to make a new one to show you how to do it. Okay, so the function name, you can call this whatever you like. So we're going to say up or attach files from forms to CRM. Okay, and we don't need it to return anything. Now coming in, we need some specific data here. So the files that are coming from Zoho Flow will come in as a list. Okay, so we're going to call this files list. And then the next thing is we will have a string, which will be our module name. So write it exactly like you see me writing it here. And then finally, we'll have an int, which is a number, and this will be the record ID. So this is going to be the files that the client has uploaded to the form. This is going to be the module name that we're going to pre-populate into this form using this m equals up here. And then the record ID is going to be the record ID from this link here that is pre-populated into this form that the client's filling in, but the client won't see. All right, I hope you're following along. So create. So here comes a little bit of the difficult part. So I'm going to go to my code that I've got for on my other flow that I've made already, and I'm going to paste this in and explain what it does. Okay, so starting at the top here, this is a custom function. Now void means that it's not going to return anything to us when it runs. Sometimes you'll have a custom function that does something special, like you might put in a date in the wrong format, and then you want it to feed out the correct format of the date. So in that case, this wouldn't be void. This would say date or string, and that's what we would be receiving back from the custom function. But in our case, we don't need to receive anything back from the custom function. Now this is the function name. We can name this anything as long as we don't have spaces in here or start it with a number. And you know, I like to put underscores between the words and make it quite explanatory. Now these are the files, and these are the sort of incoming variables or parameters that we set in when we were creating the function. So here's my list, which is called file list, my string, which is called module name, and my integer or number, which is called record ID. So that's what sets up the function, and the function happens between these two curly braces. Okay, so everything in between here is what this function is doing. Okay, you can't write anything above the function or below the function. All right, so here we are. So we are saying if file list, yeah, so the files coming in from forms, is empty, which will return true if the list is empty. So we're saying if file list is not empty, then do this. So if there's files in the file list, then do everything between these curly braces. Okay, now we're cycling through all files in the file list. So we're saying for each file map inside the file list, do this. Okay, so the file map is basically just a map of JSON data where it'll have URL, it'll have file type, and it'll have file name. Now we don't need the file type or the file name, we just need the path. So we're saying for each file map inside the file list, do this. So everything in between these curly braces. Okay, so now we're saying from the file map, get the JSON data called path, and call that file path. So now we have this new thing we can work with, which is just the file path. Now, we need to invoke that file path. So that's a URL to a file. And what we need to do with that URL is we need to actually go onto the internet and get that file inside Zoho. So Zoho can see the code that is inside that file instead of just the URL that points to that file. So we're saying file equals invoke URL, which means go get it. Okay. And then we're saying the file is at the following URL. The type is we want you to get it, yeah, so the type is get, and the connection is Zoho Forms. Now don't get confused there, because my previous thing that I had I renamed incorrectly. So this here relates to where we set up the connection at the beginning to Zoho Forms when we were in the system. So if you already have Zoho Forms in your system, go to My Connections and then look for Zoho Forms in here. Yeah, and then click on View Details, and you can see what your link name is, because this is the link name that you need to use. You can click here to copy it, and then you can go back to your function, and you need to paste it into connection. And that's really important. Without that, then Zoho won't be able to read this URL. All right, so I hope you're following along so far. Now we have the file in the parameter called file. And now we want to tell Zoho to attach that file to the module name and the module ID. So here in practice, when we run this, the form is going to say the module is potentials and the record ID is this. So we're saying here, attach file to potentials, record ID, 3, whatever, then the file. And then we're saying the CRM connection, yeah? And remember to put this in inverted commas. So here we go, My Connections, we look for CRM, we go View Details, and then here you see link name for CRM. Now that's really important, because without that, Zoho Flow won't be able to attach this file to the CRM record. It's actually quite simple, and you can pretty much copy and paste my code and just reuse it exactly, but just pay attention to these things, because that might be different in your system and you might need to change these names. And then finally, I had this say info attach file response, and that was just for when I was testing this, but this isn't actually necessary because we won't ever see this again. So now we're going to click save. Oh, file list is not, I called it files list, that's why. So we're just going to change this to file list. Okay, now we're going to go save, CRM record ID. Oh, we just called it record ID. This is the problem with copying and pasting code. So this is the code I'm going to include in my YouTube description. So for you, you shouldn't have to make any changes. It should all work as it is here. All right. So now what we need to do, guys, is we need to test this. So we first need to put it on here. So that's the one we just created. Okay, and now you see it asks for file list, module name, and CRM record ID. Okay, so here we can go CRM record ID, click, and this is what's coming in from the form. Okay, now module name, we go module name. Now file list, it doesn't actually show us file list. Okay, so we have to kind of guess at this. So I'm going to just put in referrer name, but then from my testing earlier, I found that this was called something else. So bear with me 1 second and I'll find out what it was called. File upload, there we go. Okay, so we're going to just change that part to file upload. Now, I'm going to leave it on the screen for a second so you can see exactly what's what here. Okay, save. So now what we're saying is, when there's a submission to this form, take the files that are in here and upload them to the CRM module that's here, and the CRM module record ID that's here. Okay, so let's test this out. Just make sure this is on. No, see, it's not on. There we go. And I need to make sure that my previous flow is off because I don't want to clash here, although actually it's a different form, so it should be fine. But let's just turn it off anyway. Zoho form upload, yeah, so it's this one. Okay, so now that that's all done, we're going to try this out. So remember, this is the unique URL that we've given the client that already populates potentials and the record ID in the background. So all the client sees is that we're asking them for their bank statements, and they must upload it here. So we're going to go and we're going to say that's our bank statement, our Zoho Expert logo, and now we're going to submit. Now, in Zoho Forms, you can do fancy things with this page, okay? You can say, thanks for providing your, and then insert bank statements here. We'll check these documents and be back in touch with you as soon as possible. You can show that here. I'll have to do another video on that because I don't want this video to be too long, but that's really easy to work out yourself if you want to. So anyway, now if we go onto the history of our flow, we'll be able to see that this is done and it was successful. So we can see that the form came in, the form response, and this is the information that the form provided, okay? And now if we go onto the script, it shows you here that we had the file list coming in, we added it to potentials, and the record ID of that. And output is nothing because we said return void. So now if I go to my CRM, and I go to my potentials or deals, that file should be uploaded. This was the deal we used. And there we go. We go to attachments, and there's our attachment. And you can see that this attachment was attached at 1 minute ago. There we go. So that's how we do it, guys. It's actually super simple. I'm going to put the code in the description of the video so that you can copy and paste my code and try to get it to work. If you have any problems or any issues with it, just leave a comment and let me know, and I'll see how I can help you. But I really think you should be able to handle it quite easily, following step by step all the steps in this video. In my next video, I'm going to show you how to automatically create the link inside CRM and send that using a workflow to your customer. Okay, I've also got another video which I will link to in this video about how to get other data from your clients. So not just their files, but you can also ask them to fill in their date of birth or their Twitter handle. That's what we did in the other video. So I'll put that up in a card, and check that out as well. If you like it, please like, please subscribe, and please comment on the videos and let us know what you'd like to see. Thanks a lot.